Myths are not stories that are untrue. Rather, they are tales that don't fit neatly into the historical record, which serve as a foundation to a culture. Heck. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different around the campfire. Here at Extra Credits, we love games just as much as we love mythology. As we were playing through The Witcher 3 again, it dawned on us how much richer the game is if you understand the symbolism behind the myths it draws upon. And that's true of so many games. There's so many times when pop culture uses mythology to deliver subtext, or uses mythological figures as metaphors to shine a light on what creators are trying to say. So today we're gonna dive right into that, and talk about the myth of the Wild Hunt. What is it? What does it mean? And why was it chosen as the central piece of The Witcher 3? Now before we dive in, just know that this episode will include lore spoilers for the game. So if you still haven't played all the way through, feel free to come back in around 80 hours. We'll still be here. It's no secret that the mythology of The Witcher is highly influenced by real-world myths. The game's publisher, the Polish company CD Projekt Red, and their main writer Marcin Blaha has been very open about how traditional Slavic myth has influenced the game. And one of the central myths in the third title is the titular Wild Hunt. Wild Hunt folklore appears in a lot of places, including Germany, England, and Scandinavia. But in the Witcherverse, tales of the Wild Hunt are found almost everywhere. The war-torn common folk describe the Wild Hunt as a cavalcade of wraiths who gallop across the sky on undead horses. But if you dig deeper into the origins of these spirits, you'll find that they aren't spirits at all, but rather elves. In the year 2230 BR, in the Witcherverse, equivalent to BCE in our world, the only intelligent beings in the land were the dwarves. But then the elves sailed to the continent in white ships, fleeing catastrophe in their own realm. Those elves were a unified people, until dimensional portals sprang up across the world in an event known as the Conjunction of the Spheres. This conjunction transported all manner of otherworldly beings into the elves and dwarves world. Ghouls, vampires, and worst of all, humans. We don't know what happened to the original human world, but it's rumored that they brought destruction upon themselves before fleeing through the portals. The humans were especially dangerous, as they could harness the magic of the chaos, which was a thing. So to escape this newly shared world, some of the elves went through the portals themselves, and they became known as the Alderfolk. They arrived on a new planet, this time only inhabited by humans and unicorns, and proceeded to drive the human population to extinction. However, the unicorns were more difficult to exterminate, and therefore were subjugated instead. Then, after the elves carved a civilization out of this world, they eventually saw the folly of eradicating all of the humans, because they felt certain tasks were just beneath them. And while unicorns might pull carts and transport riders, they simply were not as, let's say, handy as humans. So the Alderfolk forced the unicorns to open the gate portals between worlds, allowing them to traverse the universe like they did during the conjunction. And now with access to all of the gates, Oberon, the king of the elves, created a cavalry unit known as the Red Riders, and they had but one goal: to travel the universe and enslave humans. You know, that actually sounds a lot like the Mind Flayers in D&D, making a note here to explore that mythology someday as well. But anyway, as the Red Riders began to raid the world hunting for captives, tales of a ghostly wild band of human hunters began to spread across the land. Now if we jump back to our real-life universe, we have a very similar myth, though admittedly with slightly less unicorns and magic portals, but I digress. While the details vary from culture to culture, there are a few common threads. The Wild Hunt manifests as a ghostly hunting party that whips across the winter night sky, bringing snow and storms with them. Frightening and Bacchic, these hunters, sometimes depicted as phantoms or ghosts, sometimes as flesh and blood humans, and sometimes as undead, ride black horses, and are accompanied by a pack of hunting dogs who bark and bay in ecstasy. If you're out alone at night, and you hear the sounds of otherworldly hounds and hoofbeats, you'd better hope you see them first and hide. Because if they spot you, they will carry you away, never to return. In medieval England, it was believed that witches could join the Wild Hunt voluntarily, sending their souls flying with the cavalcade, while their bodies lay sleeping peacefully in bed. The Wild Hunt may also invade your town, or even your own home, stealing your food and wreaking havoc. To protect themselves, some people would carry bread with them as they made their way to church for Yule, believing that if they encountered the hunt, they might toss the bread to the dogs and buy time for their escape. There, the hunt is known as the terrifying ride. Though in the Middle Ages in Germany, they were known as Odin's army. And that makes a lot of sense. Odin is not just the Norse god of the dead, but also the god of battle, ecstatic trance, frenzy, and holds a close association with Yule and the winter month. This association is so strong that the myth of the wild hunt itself has persisted in Scandinavia for centuries, even after Christianity became the dominant religion. So why out of all mythologies did the writers of The Witcher choose this myth? Why summon the wild hunt not to fill the vacuum of the ancient Yuletide sky, but rather as a foil to the game's protagonists? The answer is war. The wild hunt is an omen of war, and The Witcher 3 is very much a war story. Dead bodies litter the ground of the northern kingdoms, Nilfgaardians and northerners alike. People hang from trees, refugees cower in hovels, and soldiers patrol the roads as you ride by. Gallop a little further, though, and you come across peasants tending their fields, children playing, mothers washing clothes, perhaps while a plume of smoke blossoms on the horizon from a village that wasn't so lucky. War in The Witcher is both omnipresent and also always lurking in the shadows. And this combined terror is exactly what the wild hunt represents. By exploring this myth's origins, you can glean an even deeper understanding into the narrative of The Witcher, how its world reacts to these spectral riders, and why Geralt is determined to ensure Ciri does not succumb to the wild hunt. Thanks so much for indulging us this week. And if you liked our hybrid tale and would like to see more pop culture myths and their real-life counterparts explored, toss a coin to your narrator in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. Legendary patron roll call: Ahmed Ziad Turk, Alicia Bramble, Casey Muscha, Dominic Valenciana, Gunnar Clovis, Kyle Murgatroyd, and O'Reels1. Thank you so much.